When the second King Charles takes his very last breath, everything in the world of the royals will change in a huge way. A very old and very quiet machine that has been working for hundreds of years will start to move its heavy gears. For one woman, this is not just the end of a king's time on the throne. It is the total collapse of everything she worked for over 30 long years of her life. She spent 3 decades trying to move up in the world and make people like her and respect her. Imagine the loud, heavy bells of the big church called Westminster Abbey ringing out over the city of London. Most people hear them and feel sad, but for Camilla Parker Bowles, they are like a giant clock counting down the minutes. They are counting down to the exact second she loses every single thing she fought for, felt pain for, and gave up her good name for. You have seen her in many different ways over the years. First, she was known as the mistress, the secret friend who was not supposed to be there. Then she became the queen consort who stood next to the king. But the very second that the shiny gold crown touches Prince William's head, her current life will disappear like magic. It will be like a puddle of water in a hot desert that goes away when the sun gets too bright. Here is a very hard and cold truth that the people at Buckingham Palace want to hide from everyone. Camilla's crown is just a loan that she has to give back. She does not own the big, fancy houses she lives in. She is just using them for now. Even her bodyguards are only there for a short time. The man who holds the keys to her whole future is the same boy who watched his mother, Princess Diana, cry in the shadows while his father's secret friend took the title that his mom was supposed to have. Prince William does not just get to be the new king and wear the crown. He also gets the power to take everything away from Camilla. He can take the old and expensive diamonds that she wears around her neck. He can take away the very roof that covers her head. Camilla is going to find out that being in the messy newspapers was the easy part of her life. Surviving King William is where her real bad dream begins. Back in the year 1995, Princess Diana gave us a warning. She told everyone that there were 3 people in her marriage. She was talking about herself, Charles, and Camilla. But even Diana could not have guessed how fast and how painful things would be when the end finally came. It is going to be a very big and very sudden change that hurts a lot for the woman who tried to make everyone forget her past. We are seeing the start of what people call the Great Thinning. This is a very smart and planned way to erase the woman who spent many years trying to make the world forget that she was the other woman. Today, we are opening the heavy velvet curtains to show you what is really happening. We want to show you the 20 very mean and hard things Camilla will lose as soon as Charles is gone. We will tell you about secret legal papers that could leave her with no home to go to. We will talk about the specific sparkling tiaras that she has to give back to the family within just a few hours of the king's death. We will also talk about the one single person who has the power to decide her fate. This person will choose if she stays with the royal family or if she has to go live a lonely life all by herself forever. Please stay with us until the very end of this story. We want to tell you about the #1 thing that Diana said would happen 30 years ago. It is finally coming true in a way that will make you feel like you cannot breathe. If you think this is just about old rules for kings and queens, you are very wrong. This is about a son getting a quiet and very smart revenge for his mother. Do not go anywhere because the big shift in power you are about to see will change everything. It will change everything you thought you knew about the royal family. The House of Windsor will never be the same again. It is a moment in history that is very powerful and very scary for those involved. Camilla is about to find out that her time at the top was just a temporary stay in a very fancy world. To understand how far Camilla will fall, you have to understand the invisible golden cage of royal titles. Right now, the world calls her Her Majesty the Queen. That sounds like a name that lasts forever, doesn't it? It sounds like she has a lot of power and will always be important. But in the world of royal laws, that title is nothing more than a temporary lease. It is tied directly to the heartbeat of King Charles. The moment his heart stops beating, Camilla changes into something else that is not as powerful. She becomes the Queen Dowager. To people who do not know the rules, that might still sound fancy. But inside the big halls of the palace, it is just a polite way of saying the widow who does not belong here anymore. It is like a big demotion from being the boss to being a helper who is retired. She is no longer the partner of the person in charge. She becomes a person from the past reign. But here is where it gets even harder for her and where the ghost of Princess Diana comes back into the room. Usually when a king dies, his wife becomes the queen mother. This is a position with a lot of power and influence. We saw this with the mother of Queen Elizabeth. She stayed very powerful for 50 years after her husband died. But Camilla can never be the queen mother. This is because the law of the family is very strict. She is not the real mother of the king who will be in charge. She is only the stepmother. To Prince William, she is not the leader of the family. She is the woman who broke his mother's heart many years ago. Under King William, the Queen Mother title will not exist for Camilla. She will not get the huge amount of money or the big team of helpers that comes with that job. Instead, she will be pushed to the side. She will have to watch from a distance as Catherine, the new queen, takes the center spot. Catherine will have the grace and the family history that Camilla can never have. It is a legal trap that King Charles tried to fix, but William does not want to fix it at all. In the royal family, when the person in charge changes, the people who are not related by blood are the first ones to be left out. If you think a title is just a name, wait until you see what happens to her daily life when she is no longer the queen. Queen Dowager does not get to use the big royal planes. She does not get to sign important papers for the country. She does not even get to keep her bodyguards unless the new king says it is okay. William is a man who likes to look at numbers and make things modern. He has already said he wants a smaller royal family. In his plan for the future, there is a lot of room for his mother's memory, but very little room for a woman who reminds people of the sad years in the 1990s. Camilla is about to find out that being the king's wife was like a shield. Without it, she is just a widow who is 76 years old. She will be at the mercy of a stepson who has spent his whole life getting ready for this moment of control. Losing her title is only the start of her being erased. The next thing William is going to do is take the keys to the houses she calls home. For rich people, a home is a place where they feel safe. But for the royal family, a home is wherever the king says it is. For a long time, Camilla has walked through the halls of Clarence House and the hills of Highgrove like they were hers. But here is the hard truth that will hit her after the king's funeral. She does not own even one single brick of those houses. When William becomes king, he becomes the owner of all the land and the houses. For Camilla, the notice to leave will not be delivered by a mean person, but by hundreds of years of cold royal rules that she cannot change. Clarence House is a very big and pretty house in London. Camilla has lived there for over 20 years and decorated it exactly how she likes it. But it is officially the house for the person who is next in line for the throne. The second William becomes king, that house belongs to Prince George or becomes an office. Camilla will be told to pack her bags and move out. Imagine how sad that will be. While the world is crying for the king, Camilla will be crying because she is losing her home. She will probably be given a small apartment in a quiet corner of a different palace. It will be much smaller and not nearly as fancy. She goes from being the lady of the house to being a guest of her stepson, which is a very big change. Then there is the house called Highgrove. This is the place where the memory of Princess Diana is the most painful. It was the country home that Charles and Diana lived in together. It was the place where William and Harry played when they were little boys. It was also the place where people first found out about Camilla, which caused a big scandal. King Charles loves Highgrove very much, but he does not own it. The land belongs to the person who is the Prince of Wales. When William becomes king, he becomes Camilla's landlord. Can you imagine how much tension there will be? William remembers his mother's tears at that house. Now he has the power to decide if Camilla is even allowed to go there anymore. Some people think William wants to turn Highgrove into a farm for the public or a place to remember his mother. These plans do not include a special room for Camilla, but it is not just about the big houses. It is also about the people who work for her. She has chefs, gardeners, and people who clean her house. They have done everything she wanted for a long time, but their jobs are tied to the king. When the king dies, their jobs are checked by the new king. William wants to save money and make the family smaller. He is expected to get rid of most of Camilla's helpers. The woman who had a small army of people to help her will find herself in a much smaller house with very few helpers who report to William, not to her. This is not just about moving furniture. It is about losing her territory. In the world of animals, when a new leader takes over, the old ones are pushed away to the edges. In the royal family, it is the same way. Camilla is about to find out that without Charles, she does not have a country of her own. She will be living in a house that is not hers and surrounded by memories of the woman she replaced. But as sad as losing her home is, there is something even more personal that William is going to take back. Houses are made of stone, but the next thing on the list is made of something very symbolic. He is coming for the diamonds that used to belong to his mother. The revenge of Diana is about to get very shiny and very bright. In the royal family, jewelry is not just about looking pretty. It is about being the real queen and having power. For many years, the world has watched as Camilla wore jewelry that everyone remembers seeing on Princess Diana. But there is a secret rule in the royal vaults. The jewels belong to the person on the throne, not the person wearing them. The second Prince William becomes king, he becomes the boss of the most famous jewelry box in the whole world. Think about the famous pearl crown called the Lover's Knot. You have seen Camilla wearing it at big parties. But to William, that crown is not just a pretty thing to wear. It is like a piece of his mother's soul. Diana said it was so heavy it made her head hurt, but she wore it beautifully. When Charles is not the king anymore, Camilla's right to wear that crown or any of the late queen's jewelry will simply go away. William is a man who knows that pictures are very powerful. He knows that every time Camilla is seen wearing Diana's jewelry, it makes people feel sad and reminds them of the past. As the new king, William will have the power to put certain pieces of jewelry away forever. Or he can give them only to the new queen, Catherine. Imagine how that will feel. The jewels will be taken from Camilla's room and put back in the Tower of London or moved to Catherine's room. It is not just about who gets to wear them. It is about bringing back the honor of his mother's name and legacy. It goes even deeper than the crowns. Let's talk about the very famous crown with the big diamond called the Koh-i-Noor. Camilla wore a version of it for her coronation, but as a widow in the background, she will never have a reason to wear a crown again. Royal rules say that a widow does not need a crown, she needs a dark veil. Then there are the items that are on loan. Many of the necklaces Camilla wears are actually just borrowed from the royal collection. Under King William, those items will be called back. Some people say that William has a very long list of every single piece of his mother's jewelry that Camilla has. He does not want to have a big fight. He just wants things to go back to where they belong. For Camilla, looking at her jewelry box and seeing it empty will be a big reminder. It will remind her that her time as the most important woman was only for a short while. There is a lot of irony here. Camilla spent 30 years trying to fit in and look like a queen. She did this by wearing the jewels of the woman she took the place of. William's plan will not be a loud argument. It will be a quiet and very professional taking back of what belongs to his family. He will make the collection modern. He might put Diana's most famous pieces in a museum for everyone to see. He might save them for his daughter, Princess Charlotte. By the time he is done, Camilla will only have the jewelry she bought herself or that Charles gave her privately. The greatness and the history of those diamonds will be gone for her. She will walk out into the world as a private person again. She will be stripped of all the borrowed glitter that helped people forget how she joined the family. But as the diamonds are locked away, a cold wind will start to blow. Losing her home was about land, and losing the jewels was about history. But what William is planning next is about how she will survive. He is going to start the Great Thinning, and it will cut Camilla off from the world in a way she never expected. While the loss of palaces is easy to see, there is a much quieter and more painful thing happening in the dark hallways of the palace. It is the erasing of her name. Prince William thinks the royal family has been too big for too long. He thinks it is like a business that needs to be smaller. The first part he wants to cut is the part that belongs to his stepmother. Right now, Camilla has a small army of people helping her. She has friends who help her with her schedule and help her feel better. She has an office that talks to the newspapers and people who protect her every day. This costs the people of Britain millions of dollars every single year. But all of that is part of a contract with King Charles. The moment William takes over, he becomes the boss of the whole company. His plan for a smaller family has no room for a widow with a huge team of helpers. Imagine the morning after the king's funeral. Camilla wakes up and finds that her office has been moved to a different place. Her helpers are told they have to work for the new queen, Catherine, instead. Her team that talks to the news is moved into a different group. Suddenly, the woman who never had to use a phone or write her own emails for 30 years finds herself in a very quiet house. But the part that will hurt the most is the security. In the royal family, having armed guards all the time is a sign of how important you are. Under King William, the rules are changing. Unless you are a working royal, you do not get guards paid for by the people. We saw this happen to other members of the family before. Imagine Camilla being told that her guards are being taken away. She is one of the most controversial people in history, and now she will only have an alarm system and a part-time guard. This is a very loud message from William. He is telling her that she is no longer a priority for the family. This leads to what people call a social exile. In the world of big politics, Camilla currently sits at the front of the table. She meets with leaders of other countries and goes to big meetings. But a king's widow has no job like that. She does not represent the king anymore. She does not go on trips to other countries. Within a few months, the invitations to the world's biggest parties will simply stop coming to her door. The phone that used to ring all the time with calls from important people will go silent. William knows that power is not just about what you take away. It is also about what you stop giving to someone. By cutting her money and her staff, he makes her influence go away. She will not be deleted in a loud way, but she will slowly fade out. The great thinning is like a doctor using a tool to remove something. It takes away the support that kept Camilla looking like a powerful queen. It leaves behind a woman who is truly alone for the first time in a very long time. For many people who loved Diana, this is the final winning move. Diana lost her title and her guards, and she had to build a life alone. Now the roles are flipped around. It is Camilla who has to learn how to live in a world where she is not the center of attention. Her helpers will now be loyal to a king who sees her as a part of a very difficult past. As the thinning happens, Camilla will start to hide away. The big dinners with important people will be replaced by quiet meals alone. The loud cheers of the crowds will be replaced by the sound of a clock in a small house. As the lights go out one by one, she will be left with the thing she was most afraid of. She will be left with the silence of a ghost. But as her public life goes away, there is one last place she thought she could find some peace and quiet. She has a private house called Ray Mill House. This was always her secret place where she could just be herself. But under the rule of King William, it will not just be a place to rest. It will become like a fancy cage for her. The difference between her life and the new queen's life will be amazing to see. On one side, you have the future of the royal family. Catherine is the woman the whole world has loved as the person to take Diana's place. Catherine will be leading the way and being on the cover of every magazine. She will be the new kind of queen that everyone wants to see. She will have the jewels, the palaces, and the love of a whole new generation of people who look up to her. On the other side, you have Camilla. She will be a widow whose name is being taken off the daily royal lists. In the royal family, power is like a bright spotlight. When the king dies, that light moves very quickly to the next person. For Camilla, the quiet will be the hardest thing to deal with. There will be no more fast cars clearing the streets for her. There will be no more private jets to take her wherever she wants to go. Instead, she will have to watch the news on TV just like everyone else. She will see the children of the woman she replaced leading the country. William and Harry will be the ones everyone is talking about as they start a new time for the country. Can you imagine how hard that will be for her? She will be sitting in her quiet house looking at photos of Charles while she watches William. She will see a man who has his mother's face and her strong heart. She will watch him slowly take apart the life she spent 30 years building. Every charity she helped will be given to someone else. Every public job she liked will be handed over to Catherine or the younger royals. It is not a sudden attack on her. It is just a slow and careful way of making her go into the background. To people in America, this is the ultimate disappearing act. People love a story where someone comes back, but the royals prefer it when people just quietly go away. William's plan is very simple. He will make Catherine such a big star that Camilla becomes invisible. He will make Catherine so famous that the whole world forgets about the woman who came before her. She becomes just a small note in the history books. She becomes the person who just held the seat warm for a few years between the time of Elizabeth and the time of Catherine. There is something very ironic about her private house. She bought it after her first divorce to show she could be independent. Now it might be the only place she feels safe from the cold feelings of the new king. She will spend her days in the garden, maybe with her grandkids, but the shadow of the palace will always be there. She will be the woman who almost had everything, only to find out that being queen is a gift from the living, not a right that stays forever. As she walks through her gardens, she will remember the year 1995. She will remember the news stories that called her the most hated woman in the country. She fought so hard to change that story and make people love her as the queen consort. But William's time as king is a reminder that people do not forget things easily. A son's memory is even longer than the public's memory. In his kingdom, there is only one woman who is the people's princess, and that name does not belong to Camilla. This is the final stage of the thinning. This is the moment when the other woman finally runs out of time. As the curtains close on her life in public, there is one final thing we have to talk about. While she loses her name, her home, and her jewels, the biggest loss is something you cannot see on a list. It is the final winning move in the game that Princess Diana started 30 years ago. In a dark room a long time ago, Diana told the world about the 3 people in her marriage. She spoke about a shadow that made her unhappy. Today, we have seen how that shadow finally goes away. From the loss of her titles to the loss of her diamonds, Camilla's fall is about making history balanced again. Every privilege that Camilla loses is like a brick being put back into the monument for Diana. When King Charles dies, the time of protecting Camilla dies with him. She will be remembered as the woman who waited 30 years for a crown she could only keep for a little while. She will grow old in a quiet and lonely house. This is the one thing Diana said would happen. She said she wanted to be a queen in people's hearts. As Camilla fades away and becomes a forgotten widow, Diana...